Chapter 13. The Narrow Escape. Sue had become a sponge, absorbing survival skills from each person and group she encountered. This eagerness to learn served her well after being cast out by her last group. She hadn't taken part in their downfall, but they felt she had. Their rejection broke her heart. Since then, she went out of her way to avoid any contact with others. This philosophy proved safer for both Sue and anyone else she came into contact with. It made for a lonely life. She couldn't remember the last conversation she had with another human. Talking only to herself made her question her own sanity. Crazy might keep her alive. As she scavenged for supplies in some unfamiliar city, she heard strange voices on the other side of town. The once familiar sound of human conversation now sounded alien, making her blood run cold. Fear threatened to paralyze her, but she pushed herself into action, ducking behind an abandoned car. Most of the vehicles quit running after the EMP attack, only to be left wherever they stopped. Sue had never been happier to have a broken-down heap so close by. While holding her breath, Sue made herself as small as possible behind a dusty sedan. These strangers might be friendly, but she wouldn't take any chances after witnessing so much violence in a short time. People sucked. After a long lull in the voices, she raised her head, peeking through the dirty back window of the sedan. A group of armed raiders searched the building on the other side of the city square. Their laughter turned her heart to stone as she recognized the man with a leather jacket. Somehow, they remained one step ahead of her, tracking her after she thought she had lost them. She had to act before they discovered her, taking her prisoner. Sue guessed their plans for her future wouldn't be pleasant, at least not for her. Her stomach growled, reminding her of why she had taken a chance coming into the city. Life on her own had been hard, but she knew the men who killed Dan wouldn't help her. Sweat poured down her face as she realized the men stood between her and the freedom of the open road. The only direction she could go would be deeper into the unknown city. All of her wandering had driven her further away from the area where she had lived, a lost woman trapped by murderers. "Someone already ransacked these buildings. There's nothing worth taking. We're wasting our time here. Shit. Guess it shouldn't surprise me anymore. Any signs of the woman? Nah, nothing. Split up, y'all. Whoever brings her back to me unharmed will get a reward. I won't rest until I have her." The large group split up into groups of 2 or 3, spreading out throughout the city streets. 2 scruffy men headed straight for the car Sue hid behind, almost like they knew she hid behind it. Shit! Sue didn't mean to swear out loud, but the frustration and fear got the best of her after avoiding these clowns for weeks. She stayed low as she crept toward the closest cross street. Once she reached the shadow cast by the building on the corner, Sue stood, making a break for it, sprinting for her life. Her heart pounded as she gasped for breath. The effects were due more from hunger and dehydration than intense effort. She ran as fast as her body allowed, lacking any plan except for escaping the danger. Instinct alone drove her on. Confusion and chaos had gotten her this far. No voices called after her, so she mumbled a prayer of thanksgiving to anyone who might listen. Her legs ached and her chest heaved, but she drove herself onward. To stop now would mean capture, and she didn't want to think what these men would do to her. A heart attack would be a better option. She turned the next blind corner, coming face to face with an old fire escape leading up the side of a building. Without hesitation, she scrambled up the rusty metal rungs. She hoped the high ground would provide concealment along with the opportunity to observe the raiders. The prey turning the tables on the hunter. It sounded foolish in her own mind. After dragging herself over the cornice and onto the rooftop, Sue lay down on the flat surface, waiting for the panting and sweating to fade. She cracked the top of her canteen and drank the last mouthful of warm water. The empty canteen reminded her of her lack of supplies, a lack of preparation waiting to kill her. After her breathing returned to normal, Sue glanced at the street below. The 2 men who pursued her had passed by the fire escape. Neither gave it a second look. For the time being, she was safe, hidden on the roof above them. A sigh parted her lips as the stress of the close call faded. The men took their time staring into each building they passed on the block before disappearing around the corner. Luck saved her this time, but she wondered how long Lady Luck would continue to bless her. She couldn't afford to let her guard down again. How many times had she said this? Her eyes swept the top of the building before resting on the roof access door, which hung open. Sue crossed the roof, slipping through the opening, hoping to find the building as abandoned as it looked from the outside. Her stomach complained as she descended the flight of stairs leading to the top floor of the building. A row of 10 doors lined each side of the hallway, each with a shiny gold number centered on it. Sunlight lit the corridor from windows on each end of the building. An elevator sat in the middle of the hall, while a door with an exit sign hung over it occupied both ends of the hallway. She recognized it as a typical city apartment building, one just like the buildings she had lived in. Sue tried the door marked 1010, finding it locked. She ran her hand over the molding, hoping to find a hidden spare key. Nothing. After repeating this process 3 times, luck blessed her on the 4th door, a spare key hidden behind the trim above the door. The door opened to reveal an above-average sized 1-bedroom apartment. Whoever lived here had left all the window shades open, allowing the sun to illuminate the once luxurious space. She performed a quick search to make sure no one remained hidden inside before she locked the door behind her. Sue tried the lights and water, getting the result she expected. Nothing. If it had been a movie, both would have worked. She left the fridge closed, searching the cabinets and closets looking for anything useful. The refrigerator would be a petri dish of mold by now. A wooden bread box held a moldy loaf of bread and a package of English muffins with 4 muffins left. The muffins contained some serious preservatives since they had no mold on them. Sue found a 24-pack of water, 2 bags of potato chips, a bag of nacho chips, and 2 jars of peanut butter in a small closet just off the kitchen. She drank a bottle of water while applying peanut butter to one of the English muffins. The muffin had dried out, but she still enjoyed the filling treat, trying to remember when she ate her last proper meal. Her supplies had run out yesterday, but even before then, she had only eaten junk food. Sue needed a proper meal to put some meat back on her bones. With her immediate needs taken care of, Sue figured this old building provided the perfect place to hide from the raiders. She pushed a kitchen chair under the doorknob to secure the apartment as best she could. The comfy king-size bed was perfect for a quick nap. Who knew how long the raiders would continue their search of the city before giving up? Sue needed to recover in case she needed to run again. In the meantime, Sue would enjoy all the benefits of her new home, food and shelter in one package. The constant fight to survive had drained her more than she expected. Total exhaustion allowed her to fall into a deep, dreamless sleep.